Hi, I'm Gonzalo Mendez. I'm a fish biologist for Portland General Electric. We're a power company. If you live in Portland, chances are we probably provide power to your house. Providing power is really important work. As you can imagine, hospitals and schools and all sorts of places wouldn't be able to function without power. But in order to do that, we contact our natural environment. For example, we produce power with wind, and so we have to have equipment to generate the power from the wind, solar farms. And we also use water to produce power, and that's also known as hydropower. So hydro meaning water, power is obvious. You take the power of rushing water and you stop it behind the dam. You reduce that to a very small outflow pipe. You put a generator there, and that turns a generator that in turn produces power. Very cheap power, and it's also very clean power. The one problem is that we block fish moving down past the dam, and we also block fish moving up past the dam. One of our main jobs, one of our most important, is to keep that flow of fish in a river system continuing to flow, just like the water. I spend most of my time working with salmon and steelhead, which are a large trout essentially. They're important for a lot of reasons. First of all, people love to eat them. People love to recreate and catch them. They're also really important to Native American cultures here in Oregon and across the Pacific Northwest. And so they have kind of a special place in our hearts here in the Northwest. What makes them really interesting is that they migrate to and from the ocean. So when they're young, they're born in freshwater, they migrate out to the ocean and then return as adults. So that makes them really interesting. When salmon return home from the ocean to lay their eggs and produce the next generation, many people don't realize that another important contribution that they bring with them is the nutrients, in other words, their body themselves. So the bodies, when they die and decompose in the water, provide nutrients both to their young as they're growing up and to lots of other things like otters and birds, bears, and even trees, if you can imagine that. So a bear will find a carcass, take it up some distance away, near or next to a tree, eat it, probably won't finish it all, and eventually all that decomposes and all nutrients just filter right into the ground. So one of the most important things that we can do as a power company is to help make sure that salmon are able to complete that migration on a yearly and consistent basis. So how as a company do we keep fish safe? Well, one of the main ways we do that is by maintaining an effective fish passage system, which is just a fancy way of saying that we're able to pass fish around dams quickly and effectively. Another way to keep them safe is by monitoring their water quality. We know that fish like water to be a particular way. They want it to be just right. So in order to keep them healthy and strong, we need that water to be a certain way. And one way to remember what they need in terms of water is clean, clear, cold, and complex. How do we know if water is safe for salmon? Well, observations, we can monitor, we can look and observe, and we can also conduct tests to see whether water is safe for salmon or not. Why fish, you may be wondering? I love fish. I didn't grow up fishing, but once I discovered it, I couldn't find anything that I enjoyed more than fishing, and that just kind of led me naturally to a career as a fish biologist. Ever since I was a kid, I had just interest in tide pools and observing things in nature, and it took me a long time, but eventually I figured out that I could go to school and do this professionally for a living. And it took me a while to get there, but once I finally got there, I realized that, when you do something that you really love and enjoy, it doesn't feel like work, and that's kind of a real positive thing.